right, so thank you all for listening, and thank you for listening to another episode of Pivotal Moment. I'm your host, Nikita Faustin, and today I'm so glad to have Felischa Marye on the show today. She's a television and feature film writer. She is the creator and co-executive producer of the hit BET Plus series, Bigger. Oh my goodness, you don't want to miss it. Felischa and I were talking before the top of the show, and it is really, really funny, brilliantly written, executed. The show is co-executive produced by Hollywood heavyweight and super producer Will Packer. The show follows the lives of 5 30-something friends in Atlanta and their quest for more love, more opportunity, more options, more success, more of what they each need to be satisfied, right? So Marye described it recently as a mix between a Black Friends and a Sex and the City. And when you see it, you will want more. I guarantee it. But before Bigger, Marye wrote for the incredibly popular Netflix series 13 Reasons Why. She's a graduate of UCLA's esteemed screenwriting program, and today she joins us on Pivotal Moment to talk about the moment that took her from where she was to where she wanted to be. Welcome, Felischa.
Hello, Nikita. Thank you for the rave reviews. I appreciate it.
Mic drop right after that, right? So Felischa and I were talking before the start of the show about one of the Chicago screenings of Bigger, and everybody in the crowd was cracking up. Everybody loved the show, and the folks that I've talked to since then have since talked about loving the show in each episode. So I want to just talk to you about the response you've been getting. Are you surprised? Are you overwhelmed by the love, the outpouring, and the response?
I would say, well, the response has been fantastic, and it's been, I would say, it's not a surprise because it was what I hoped for. It's sort of exactly what I hoped for, but it is a relief because there was no guarantee that I was going to get it, just because I hoped. Yes. So, but it was literally, I think it was validating, and that's a good word for it, because it was literally everything we wanted the show to be. We got fed back to us. We wanted people to see it like a Black Friends, and that was back at us from fans of the show. We wanted it to have heart and be hilarious. It's just foolish, tomfoolery. And people call that show foolish. And as Black people know, that is not a negative. That is literally a compliment for a comedy to be foolish. And so with that, it's just a relief that, to set out to do something and to check the box of people get exactly what you were trying to do. And that's exciting. So it's been great.
It's exciting, and it's also well done. The writing is really good, and the characters have so many layers. And you talked about in a recent interview how the 5 characters represents 5 shades of Blackness, and you're able to see all these different hues within the series. Is there one that relates to you more, or are they kind of like a compilation of things and experiences of people and things you've seen?
Yeah, I think the women... Actually, even some of the sentiment from the men, I think each of the main 5 characters are a piece of me, even the male characters in some way.
Yeah.
Maybe the difference, I have a love of music, so that might be the only thing I share with Vince. But, I might share Dion's opinions on, let go of the old and bring in the new, and let's not, because I'm always saying to my friends, let's not get old, let's not get stuck, y'all. Come on, let's keep up. That's how, you get stuck. If you start just relaxing and not, saying, well, I don't know how to use this app. Nope. Now you're grandma. Now you're a grandma.
Wait a minute. Or when he said take off that velour suit, remember he had on that velour?
Yes, exactly.
Felischa, come on.
I'm just saying, it's just because, I've noticed as you age, there's an effort to stay cool, and eventually you give up. I'm trying not to give up, but eventually it's too much, you know what I'm saying? But at 35, it's not too much. It's still possible to hold on, and so I was that person trying to act 25 at 35.
Right.
So that's where that kind of came from. But all 3 of the women are definitely different sides of me and pieces of my friends from college who
Yes.
Pieces of them, in terms of voice, because, I don't want every character to sound like the way I speak. Right. Probably Lane speaks the most like me. Yeah. But then there's a side of me that's turn-up queen in the right environment. So, with Tracy, but then Tracy's also, her voice, though, might be one of my other friends who I just had to tap in the voices. So they're a mixture of me and my friends from college for the most part.
Absolutely. And Felischa and I went to the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign together. So shout out to the Illini out in the
Buddy Illini.
All right. So let me circle back before we go further into bigger about before bigger, because you were already in Chicago. You were doing well. You were a VP. You were in public relations. But that really wasn't where you really needed to flourish the most. You talked about things being harder, and when you got into writing, it became much easier. So talk about your time in Chicago and PR and how that got you from there to LA.
Yes. Well, I was at U of I Champaign. I was like an acting major, so I've always been sort of into the arts, thinking that I wanted to be an actress initially, and realized that actually it was because of the program, the theater program at U of I at the time. I had some issues with it. And with one of the teachers there, I would say one of the movie teachers, he's still there. So, but that was, some things happened for a reason. And so whatever trouble I had, it made me really evaluate acting as my total career. Not to say I won't do it eventually one day again, but like as my 100%, like this is what I do every day, I started to reevaluate that. And then I also got scared. I was like, what does life look like working in the arts?
Right.
Because I feel like fear, obviously, is the biggest enemy of dreams.
Yeah.
So I switched majors in undergrad, graduated in communications, ended up going in PR, and that was, to me, kind of like television. You know, there are cameras, broadcast journalism, you know,
I see.
The news. Then I realized I hated the news, you know what I mean? So that's how I ended up in PR. So I was always sort of trying to be like entertainment adjacent, because PR, you know, there are events and there are celebrity, PR. Yeah. But so I was always getting close to it, but it was never fully satisfying. I did well. I was able to move up, but it always felt painful, like meaning all the work felt painful, because PR is really hard work. So it's hard to, unless you do love it, it's hard to pretend or to sustain it for long, unless it is literally, just like you can't sustain entertainment, a career in entertainment for long, unless it's really what you live and breathe, because it requires too much of you.
It requires all of you.
To be able to play. It requires all of you. And PR, ironically, does too. So eventually, by the time I got into my 30s, I just felt exhausted in trying to, no matter what job I changed to, when I tried to go from agency side to corporate side to the advertising side, client side, all of it felt, I'm like, well, maybe this will be better, or maybe that'll be better. And it all felt the same, with different challenges, but still not like home. And then, and I feel like we talk about, like, or you talk about the pivotal moment. The pivotal moment for me is when I got like a super difficult client that made it hard to sort of exist day to day without being super stressed.
Okay.
And so what was always kind of difficult, but I could get by, became like unbearable suddenly. Emotionally unbearable. And I know that this was just a thing planted by like God and the universe to move me to a different direction, because right after I applied to film school, because that's why I applied to film school. I was like, I got to be away from this bitch. I'm just going to be out. You know what I mean? That's what I said. You know, I'm like, this is enough. It's time to make a life change. Like, I was that mad. Like, you know what I'm saying? And so that anger pushed me to apply to film school. And I know that it was just a ploy to, you know, this whole conflict with this woman was a ploy because she's my friend now. You know, like I was at her wedding in Mexico a few years after that while I was in film school, and she wrote one of my recommendation letters, the same client for UCLA, because we ended up being friends by the time I applied. So it was just there long enough for me to be uncomfortable, you know?
Because if you got too comfortable, then you wouldn't have moved out. So that negative reinforcement pushed you to where you needed to be.
Absolutely, because I was willing to go all in to get out. I'm going to put that on something. I'm going to go all in to get out.
Okay, that's a new hashtag, all in to get out.
T-shirt, copyright,
Merch.
Yes, merch.
So then you went to UCLA to this great screenwriting program. You got accepted there. The person who really kind of gave you that negative reinforcement to make that move ended up being one of your recommendation letters. So when you got into that program, Felischa, what did you learn about yourself or about your writing skills? Because you'd already come from U of I, you'd already been in PR, so you're a good writer. But what did you learn about the process of writing or screenwriting and writing for Netflix and TV?
I realized and learned that writing is a muscle, literally, and that the more you do it, the better you got. I learned that I didn't know how to write screenplays and scripts like I thought I did upon entering the program. My strategy was, I need to go all in and I need to quit my job. So that was a full-time program where I can apply for loans to live off of, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So that I could actually go all in. Yes. And so But I thought, oh, I'll go to UCLA for the credibility. So that because I wasn't 25, right? So I didn't want to like come out to LA, just be floating out here. So I thought that was a good way to sort of give me a community of people as well as some validation since I hadn't been writing. If people saw, okay, I graduated from this program. But what I ended up finding out is I didn't know what the hell I was doing and at a professional level. Okay, I found that out in the first quarter. I was so intimidated because I saw what real writers wrote like, and I thought I was such a genius writer, and my pages, I wanted to like rip them up and burn them.
Way.
Like that's how. It's just a muscle,
writing, right? It's a different
style of writing. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So, and you have to learn how to do it, and then you have to do it a bunch of times. They say 10,000 hours. I think is it 10,000 hours? Create the master, you're a master of a thing or something.
Wow. Okay.
I forgot. Or was it 1,000 hours? 10,000 sounds like a lot of damn hours. It's something with 3 zeros at the end.
Okay, we're done already. You're crazy.
Y'all Google it. Google it. That's what Google's for.
That's the new card catalog. I just dated myself again, so I'm not going to say that anymore.
Oh, you say, see, I love it. I love it.
Felischa, we're going to edit that out. I'm going to edit that.
Did you say Dewey Decimal System? Just go to LexisNexis, y'all. Just go to LexisNexis.
It's going to be by title, it's going to be by title, by author, or by subject. We're done.
Exactly.
All right.
So basically, it's that practice that makes perfect, so to speak, with writing, and that and then as I got like by the time I was in my second quarter of the first year, because it's a 2-year program, 2 to 3 year program at the time. You know, by the time my writing got better, I started to see strengths were like dialogue. And I was first trying to be a drama writer, but everybody's like, really, your funny ass is about to be a drama writer? So then it was like, okay, but I was very attracted to drama.
Oh, wow.
That's my taste. That's what I watch. Not necessarily always in television, but just in features. And, you know, I just like the dark and dramatic as a viewer. But, of course, I like comedy. I do like to laugh and make people laugh. So I sort of went where my personality matched the most, which was comedy. And I started to write more comedies where at first I was writing dramas. But the good part about those dramas is that I had dramas that I had written, and that helped me by the time I got the job on 13 Reasons Why. But the first thing that I wrote and sold was an HBO pilot that didn't get greenlit, but it was a comedy.
Okay, so you wrote and sold that to HBO while you were still in grad school at UCLA.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And so your writing skills got incredibly off the chain and off the charts if you sold it to HBO and they bought it. So whether or not it was like...
Yeah, by year 2.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
For sure. And it still wasn't as good, though, as like 3 years later or 3 years later or 2.5 years later when I got staffed on my first show, which was 13 Reasons Why. So even when at that time my writing got better, and even from there to now it's gotten better. So that's just how it kind of...
The journey.
Automatically works, yeah.
How did the 13 Reasons Why position come along? Because you had sold that to HBO. Are you out of grad school by the time that started, or were you still in grad school where you started writing for 13?
I was still, I was out. I was out for a couple of years by then. Okay. And basically they had read one of the comedy sample from HBO.
Oh.
And so actually a comedy sample, because a lot of times drama rooms will hire comedy writers to bring levity to work.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if I did that because I like dark. So I don't know if I brought levity because I like to bring darkness because that's what I like to watch.
Interesting.
So sometimes a comedy rooms will have a drama person for story and plot. Yeah. I felt very lucky because I had read the pilot. I ended up getting on season 2 of 13 Reasons Why, 2 or 3. But I had read the pilot. It hadn't aired yet by the time I was staffed on season 2. But I knew it was going to be a hit show. I could tell by the pilot. And then they showed me the first season before it was released. And I was like, oh, this is about to be a hit. So I was real lucky that was the first show and that it did reflect the other side of my taste. So I don't have to be in a box of comedy forever because I write more dramedies anyway than just straight one genre. So that was helpful that I have 2 vastly different types of shows that I've written for.
And the fact that you were able to exercise that drama writing muscle, you know what I mean? In the midst of having like this comedy strength, like you're multifaceted, so you were able to do that. So that's awesome. And the show was such a hit. So that's huge, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, very grateful.
So let's talk about then after those 2 seasons where you were writing for Netflix's or writing for 13 Reasons Why on Netflix, how that then led to Bigger, because that's on BET Plus, which is a venture between BET Networks and Tyler Perry Studios. And the streaming is $9.99 per month. They got like 1,000 hours worth of content on there. So talk to me about that and how Will Packer came into the picture.
Yeah, so I just had a meeting with Will Packer's company, just what's called a general meeting, which is basically a get-to-know-you meeting that executives at studios or networks or production companies have with writers they're interested, that they might have read, and they're interested in just meeting so that they can know that you exist, basically, if a project comes up that may be appropriate for what you write. And so I had one of those on the books, and they pushed it up like a week because apparently there was a conversation between Will and BET and Scott Mills at BET about a living single kind of Black Friends type of show, that there might be room for that because there's not a lot. I mean, you have Insecure in Atlanta, but in terms of like just an ensemble friend show that is like hard comedy, they thought there was room for something like that. And because I was already on the books at Meet and they knew I wrote friendship type comedies, they pushed it up and talked to me and wanted to see my take on it. And it happened very fast. They were looking for like a concept to be created.
Oh, okay.
And they knew I wrote that kind of thing. Like I wrote on 13 Reasons Why, which is not a comedy, but it's definitely a show about friendship.
Okay.
As well as other things. And then the pilots that they had read were like almost like a Sex and the City type comedy.
Okay.
So they knew I wrote in that vein. It was like, oh, let's get this writer's take, and other writers, I'm sure they talk to, let's get some writers' take on this idea.
But we want her because she's the bomb, and she did this, and she did that, and she came from UCLA.
Yeah. And it's like, hey, let's see what she has. Yeah, and so then I sort of took a stab. And so at first, it was supposed to be a regular BT channel.
Right.
It was way safer, broader. It was called Peachtree Place. It was more about the girls than it was guys. Then some things changed along the line. It was just like they bought the pilot. I did a pilot commitment with me. And then down the line, it was official there was going to be a show. I started to look for a showrunner to co-run, or rather to teach me how to be a showrunner and run the show. But then in the midst of that, they told us that they were going to launch BT Plus, and that this show would be one of the original programs. It's the switch. So that was the opportunity to actually create a show that was more in my voice, because I had never written for a regular sort of like cable or network. Mm-hmm. And that's not really my typical, like I like edge. If I'm going to watch something on basic cable, it's going to be Atlanta on FX. There's going to be something where there's not a lot of like the censorship isn't that deep, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so I was relieved that, streaming, like we can go balls out, no pun intended. And so basically, throughout the Peachtree Place idea.
That was awesome. I think, can we do that as a hashtag, or is that too risque? Like,
yeah, it's balls out. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yes. So I threw out the other scripts, completely developed that whole pilot, and then threw it out. And used some of the same characters. Maybe one character pretty much changed. Some of the elements of the characters changed a little bit, but they're essentially the same 5 people. And we developed that into a new premise. So the premise is different, but it's still 5 friends in Atlanta. That's the only thing that remained the same from the original concept.
But you had like more, what can we say, like literary latitude, because you were able to be more edgy,
absolutely,
more sexy.
Absolutely.
You could kind of like push the envelope for this platform that is just now being created too. So it kind of worked out like amazingly well, right? Like you got all this creative license on this new platform. You can just blow up.
Absolutely. It's great. It's been great. It is great. Yes. Exactly.
I love that.
Yes.
So now, because we were also talking about the process of, okay, so you have the show, you've got these episodes, they're streaming, folks can download them, but then there's also the process of getting the word out about the show. And I've seen a lot of the actors doing a lot of PR and interviews about it. And that whole process, talk about that, because that's a whole nother step in what's happening, but it's going remarkably well. Like a lot of people are talking about this great show, Bigger.
Yes, I will say that if people watch it and end up loving it, it's going to be important to spread the word, because it is on a new platform that is getting marketed. So the platform is getting marketed, and then when people get to the platform and they have to know about and find us. So there are a lot of I don't want to say hurdles to jump over, but there are. So it's important that if you're a fan of the show, and only if you're a fan of the show, I'm not asking this if you're not, to just talk about it, to tell everybody you know, to go on social media or whatever your form of communication is with your network of people, to just spread the word, because we don't have that much content that people love. We don't have that much content as Black people, period. And I feel like this is, and it's not even, this is to me universal. I mean, it's a very Black show, but it's also not very Black in the same way, meaning it's relatable on every level, no matter who you are. So we just want people to talk about it, so that, because I think it's going to be word of mouth, you know.
Agreed. And word of mouth travels fast, especially when it's good. And you said that, Felischa, like, we're all humans, and you wanted to create a human story, and that in the human story, these folks just happen to be Black, but the things that they're going through, whether it's love or loss or hurt or pain or grief, those are universal, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you did something that kind of hits all the edges, whatever market you might be coming from. So I encourage you to watch Bigger. For those who have not seen it, I encourage you to see it, and see it often. Like in Chicago, we vote and vote.
Yes. Yes. Because people have been rewatching episodes. It is that kind of watch where you kind of almost want to rewatch it. Yeah, absolutely.
No doubt you have to do it. So how does having the name recognition, though, of like Will Packer and Tyler Perry Studios, how does that help? And how is it kind of connecting with those folks within this venture?
Oh, it's great. They're both amazing and have their own community of fans. So I'm lucky to work with Will in particular, who's the producer of the show, to sort of leverage the brand he already has to lend itself to this. He's known for comedy, big, broad, crazy comedy.
Yeah.
And this is a big comedy, crazy comedy. So that's great. And it's great to learn a lot from him. And what I learned mostly, I haven't met Tyler Perry yet, but of course having his name, guess what, is amazing. Anywhere near your name. Like with anywhere, you know what I'm saying? In the neighborhood of my name is great.
Right, in the neighborhood.
And but with Will, you know, I think one of the biggest things that I'm happy to observe is like to be that powerful, but to be a good person. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that, you know, I've been told all these things about Hollywood before I got here. And to me, the biggest thing I've been proven is that, hey, you can roll with, not that I'm not, you know, it's very early in the game. Next year I might be like, I'm working with somebody crazy, and I'm sure that will happen. But it's just that I've really been lucky enough, you know, like Devon Shepard, who's the showrunner.
Yes, I saw the video with you and him talking about the show. That was a good clip.
Absolutely. Yeah. These are good people who just want to make great television and great work in general. And so, you know, so my fears about like evil Hollywood, you can find people, everyone's not evil, you know, and so I've been lucky in that way because I didn't know how I would handle, you know, what all those stories I hear about Hollywood. I didn't know how I would handle it.
Are you handling things now okay? Because you are like in the Hollywood spotlight of sorts. You're kind of like ascending in this like area where all these people are around you, gravitating towards you and your concept and your work. Are you finding it like okay, or are you still able to be grounded, I guess is a better question? And do you feel comfortable? Do you feel comfortable in this space? Do you feel comfortable?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And I think particularly because I haven't ascended to some level, you know, where it's like, oh my God, I have no time for myself. You know, I'm not even.
Where you're like, I need a
you
handler.
know, I wish I'm not there yet.
I need a handler. I need the paparazzi.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't deal with all of it.
It is. It is cool to be a person that people like, I'm a fan of your work, and people, if anyone says that, like people have said that to me and I'm already a fan of their work, that's starting to get cool.
Oh, that is awesome.
Yeah, no, it's cool. I'm ready for whatever the journey provides, really.
So speaking of that and folks knowing about your work, who is it that you're most looking forward to perhaps working with at some point in the future? Do you have any favorite writers or producers that you'd like to partner with?
I do. There's so many.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh God, I don't even know where to start. You know, there's Donald Glover, obviously, it's amazing. Shonda Rhimes is obviously amazing.
Yeah.
You know, from a director standpoint, I'm a big fan of Barry Jenkins, who, you know, directed Moonlight, got the Oscar for it. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to think who else. But I mean, I had to start with my brothers and sisters, but I'm a fan of a lot of people beyond that.
Sure.
Meaning Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Fleabag was a big influence on this show.
Okay.
And she also not only starred and created Fleabag, but she also created, what's it called? Oh God, I'm blanking.
Yeah,
I am Killing Eve. Sorry.
Oh, okay,
yes, okay. Killing Eve. And so that to me is amazing because she's a writer-performer who, from everyone I talk to, is an amazing person, and just cool. Again, grounded person. Yeah. She just swept a bunch of Emmys, a few weeks ago.
Amazing.
Between Fleabag and Killing Eve. And then she went off and created this whole other hit after Fleabag. So that she's my shero, and that I think representing some things I want to do and the tone of which I want to tell stories as well. So those are some of the initial. Another producer, Judd Apatow. I've always kind of made a joke like, "Hey, I like to be like black female Judd Apatow," which, like, what does that even look like? I have no idea. But some of his movies and the sort of the inappropriateness of some of his humor and the kind of the balls outness of his humor.
Felicia,
from the I know we made it a thing. We made it a thing. Yes. From like the early 2000s beyond, or when after that when 40-Year Virgin premiered. But my thing is like that. I felt like I found I'm like that's my shit right there. That's what I do. Like that's what I want to do.
Love it.
But with diverse characters.
Yes.
Yeah, those are some folks.
So let me ask you this, because you're such a creative person, and you have to have the kind of mindset to create the characters and the layers and the storylines and make them kind of mesh together. What's your process for writing? Do you have a place in your house where you write and create? Do you write at night, in the morning? Like, what does that
My only rule is not in my house, mostly, because I just can't.
You don't write at home? Not at all?
I do, unless it's, I have to. Sometimes I'm forced to, just because I can't.
Okay.
But if it's at night, I can, like, when the world is asleep, that's the best time, like, when I'm at home. Yes, during the day, it's coffee shops. Like, I'm a big coffee shop person. Like, I like, eclectic, not like coffee shop chains, but like cool little, privately owned mom and pop coffee shops, or really cool, hip looking coffee shops. Yeah, I'm a coffee shop.
Okay.
Whore. That's why it's called myself. Coffee whore. I would just bounce coffee shop to coffee. And sometimes in one day. So, yeah, I'm just saying. That's what I do. They're like, there she is again, coming in here,
Here she go.
Yeah.
Do you use an outline, Felischa, or do you kind of go with the flow? You always use an outline. Okay.
Oh, no. There's no such thing. I don't believe anyone should ever do that. That's crazy. People have a process, but I don't think that is a process. There's no process that you just write a script without an outline. Like, that's crazy. Yeah, because it's very much like a blueprint, and you have to know where you're going, because it's too much. It's too big of a world, too many choices for you not to know exactly where you're going.
Because how will you know if you're off? Like, any road will take you there,
right?
So to speak.
And then be open to the magic that is involved. Like, sometimes you change things, but it needs to be a blueprint. You can't build a house without starting. And once you start to build a house, you can add things and remove things, but you need the framework,
First and foremost, you had to build it. That makes good sense. So what's the best advice you've ever received, Felischa, in this process? I
think from Professor Howard Suber, who was a professor emeritus at UCLA. He started the producers program at UCLA many years ago. He's in his 80s, so it's amazing to have he's still teaching there, to even have taken his class with all the history, because he's worked there like 50 years or something.
Oh, wow.
But he said he had a whole class about this almost, and it was called strategy, which I didn't even know what the class was, but everybody who's a fan of his just took anything he offered, and a lot of people loved this strategy class. And I'm like, what is film strategy? I don't know what the hell that is. But it was basically telling you, don't jump off a damn bridge with this career. Basically, don't fall into despair. That is the best advice. It's so hard, because I said that this was easier than PR. I meant on my spirit, more so than like the work. It's probably harder than PR to achieve anything in this business, but my spirit was not settled, because it's not what I wanted to do, so it was harder. But it's hard now.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard. It's, I sold a pilot, and it took me another 2 years or so to find a job.
Yeah.
But what I remember during those 2.5 years or whatever that was that Howard Super said, don't fall into despair, because people who pursue this and who do well in any kind of way, whether you sell one pilot, whatever, when you start to do well, like you're used to getting, people who go after this are used to getting, who went to a good film school or whatever, they're kind of like overachievers, used to overachieving and getting pat on the head like good little students. And so this is the first time those good little students are being told no left and right, which can be jarring and shocking. Yeah. And so if I hadn't had that advice, I probably would have internalized any no's.
Okay.
Because I was such an overachiever that I didn't want to ever hear no.
Absolutely not. Yeah, right.
It was in my personality, but he knew that all of us writers is in our personalities to win. And so when we don't win, it could send us into a depression or despair, or we can give up, or worse, you know what I'm saying, or self-destruct. And so that was his advice. And then even now, like, this can go up and down. Like, I have a show now. I'm not trying to put this in the universe, so I'm not going to say the rest.
Sure.
But I'm just saying, like, there's no guarantee that it's all straight to the moon once you have one thing. Yeah. So you have to learn how to ride the in-between, to ride the waves, and to not fall into despair.
Okay.
And to put value in things other than it.
Yes,
that was his whole piece.
Good, Felischa.
Your personal life, your family, your friends, your relationships, your marriage, whatever because those personal relationships are always going to trump that anyway.
Right.
So don't make it all about that. So then it won't be. You can't fall into despair if you have a full life.
Yes, 100%.
That was it.
That's great advice. Be resilient. Don't put your heart into the accolades of man. I read that somewhere. And that was
Hello?
Good. That's
yes,
with me.
girl,
so,
please. Yes, that's right.
So that is true.
More merch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
guess that's somebody else's, though. So it's kind of copyright infringement, but...
That's a good one. We're going to come out with a few different ones. I think that's like number 3.
Yeah.
I've almost lost track. So let me ask you this last question, because I know that I think I've had you on here for a minute, and I want to make sure that you can do all the things that you do in LA. Are you in LA or in Hollywood? Which city are you in, by the way?
I'm in LA, but I'm in the Hollywood neighborhood. I'm on the nose and literal I'm all cliche living in actual Hollywood, yes.
Okay, look at you. I love it. So what would people be surprised to know about you? How about that?
Surprised, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that I was afraid this show would be judged in this climate. Like, I'm like, oh, I'm going far. I'm talking about sex, and I don't know if black people are going to be mad. Like, why we got to be having sex? I don't know. I didn't know what people were going to say. Like, you know what I'm saying? Why we got to be doing why somebody got to be cheating? I didn't know what. So what this has taught me is that, because what people might be surprised is how, like, anxious I am all the time, because I guess I come off chill, but I'm actually quite anxious. And so...
Wait, Felischa, hold up, back up. You said I'm actually quite anxious.
Quite, all the time, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I love it.
So, like, my thoughts are racing. And so what this taught me is just be true to your truth and what makes you laugh and what moves you, and be fearless and and putting it out there, because you will silence yourself if you worry about, if you edit so much before you can put it out there. You know what I mean?
Felischa, those are words of wisdom. You will silence yourself if you never put it out there. Oh my gosh. And I think I've talked with several writers over years, and they will say that, like, they didn't write this because they didn't want someone to think it was about them, or they didn't write that because
you can't do that.
People to, like, judge me or you know what I mean? And so that can stifle the spirit and the message you're supposed to get to other people.
One of my instructors at UCLA, Hal Ackerman, used to make people do a cringe list, and I actually stole that from him. Hey, Hal, if you're listening, and did it when I was teaching screenwriting myself for a second.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Because I feel like it's a way to break out of that fear, where you write the 10 most cringeworthy things that happen in your life. Oh. You have to read them out loud to the class. And so once you get, once you put yourself in the script a couple of times, balls out again, then you're not worried about it. And it's not so much about you. It reflects your taste. But this is not biographical. I wish it was. This would be I wish I did have Lane's Dilemma right now and Ring from a Doctor and the other option. Okay.
Gosh.
But that's not my life.
No, I don't want to get too much away for the show. I know for those who haven't seen it, but
you're right. Let me shut up.
I was about to say, though, just expound it a little bit. Like, if you have a choice between being married to this safe, rich person person or having this wild, incredible, like, love affair, which do you choose? You can find out in Bigger. I'm just saying, y'all.
Yes.
That's all I'm going to say.
Yes.
Is that enough? Without giving away
Exactly.
too much.
That's enough. That's safe.
But I love that list
safe.
of cringeworthy things and then coming forth and bringing life to so many more truths. I think that's amazing, Felischa. Really?
That's great. Thank you.
Balls out. That's the new hashtag. So, okay, one more question, and I promise I'll let you go. What advice, because everyone has a script or a book or a blog or something, especially like young girls who are looking up to you and looking up to writers like you and creators, how should they start to hone their gift, or how can they tap into it more so they're not afraid of opportunity?
I would say just learn the craft, classes, anything you can afford. Do as much as you can afford. If books, reading, and learning that way is all you can afford, do that. If you can afford to take a class, do that. If you can afford or can figure out, or you okay with some student loans to invest in yourself, go to film school. To learn the craft and then keep writing. Yes. And then eventually enter that into contests, like Google certain contests. See how you place once you're ready. Yeah. Because there's a lot of industry people sometimes who participate in contests. So you don't want to send work out that's not ready because it may land some eyes and you don't want to read your not ready work. Yeah. But once you feel like it's ready, you send it to people who know what they're talking about and they say they like it, then enter it into some things. If it places, you can get it. If it places, runner up or anything, or any kind of prize, absolutely, you could get some attention from it. Yeah. So you just never know. So just write, learn it, keep writing, and then start to. One way to put it out there is through contact. Yeah,
that's a great one. And how can people follow Bigger? Follow you? Where do they go, and how do they do it?
We have to work with the network on some of the social media pages, but you can certainly follow me at Felischa, FELISCHAM, Marye, at Felischa M, and that's Instagram, and it's at Felischa, same spelling, without the M for Twitter.
Awesome. Felischa, thank you so much. This has been so much fun. I didn't know we was going to come up with 3 hashtags. I mean, I only need 1% of all revenue going forward from the hashtags. That's all I ask. Okay. And
Got it.
VIP seating at all of the screenings. And
definitely
just red carpet access to Idris if he's in any of your episodes. Okay.
Once I get red carpet access to Idris, then you get it. And sorry, his new Miss Elba, but we checking for him. We checking.
She gotta know. Come on now. Felischa, I honestly, truthfully love what you're doing. Love the vision, and I'm so glad that it's resonating because it's a great storyline and great people, and like you said, human stories. So I encourage you to listen, download, and really be a part of this bigger movement because that is what it is. So Felischa Marye is a pivotal moment. Thank you so much, Felischa, and we will be following you where we can find you, okay?
Thank you so much.
All right, my friend. Talk to you soon.
Thanks.
Okay, bye-bye. Okay, we love us some Felischa Marye, and we love Bigger. Say it with me now. We love Bigger. Okay, I cannot say it enough. If you haven't seen the show, go and check it out today on BET+. You can watch all of the current episodes and get caught up on the hottest series out there today. You will love it. Trust me. And tell all of your friends about Bigger. Felischa Marye, as she said, went all in to get out. And she did. And she's making it happen today. We will be watching and following her rise in Hollywood. If you didn't, check out last week's episode with another superstar sister, Malin Ezrika. She's an award-winning journalist, author, and Chicago Sun-Times columnist, and one of the 25 most powerful women in journalism. Do not miss that show. Please continue to follow, download, and share Pivotal Moment. Listen to us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Play Music, iTunes, and Podbean. I'm your host, Nikita Faustin. Thank you for listening. We will talk to you next time.